Sunny ways, my friends. Sunny ways.
You sneaky. You're running as an outsider.
I am an outsider.
We have recently switched to drinking water bottles out of water out of when we have water bottles out of plastic. Away from plastic towards paper, like drink box water bottles. So that
well, the frickin' God!
You're ready to fight, aren't you? I can feel
I intend to resign as party leader, as prime minister.
Is this true?
Yes, it's true. This man has no dick.
Guess what? I got a fever. And the only prescription is more cowbell.
Mr. Prime Minister, will there always be a Canada?
There will always be a Canada.
All right, elbows up.
Elbows up.
It's like people only do things because they get paid. And that's just really sad.
So the answer to that is to stop being stupid.
My great pleasure to introduce my husband, the Prime Minister who will make Canada strong. And Canada full!
I can't do it. We'll do it live. We'll do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Thank you. It will be an honor to continue to fight for you and to be a champion of your cause as we go forward.
Let's fucking go.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Fringe. I hope everybody's doing well. I hope everybody's enjoying their Monday so far. You'll have to forgive me. I did not realize that the Premier's First Minister's meeting in Saskatoon was being live streamed this morning. It was brought to my attention at the last minute, 11th hour. Luckily, what was being done was live streamed for over an hour, for really only about 10 minutes of content. And I want to show you what just went down at the meeting, because it really opens up the discussion as to where Alberta, Saskatchewan, and other provinces are going to stand. Mark Carney giving more word salad amidst everything that's happening. This is the definite argument of Alberta independence. Many provinces seeking their independence. I'm going to give everybody a moment to gather in to get into the channel. Let's get into the comments. Let's see what you guys have to say. And then we're going to bring in essentially what just went down, what was just shown at the First Minister's meeting. Now, keep in mind, I do not know what has been said. I have no idea, as again, I was alerted at the last minute at the 11th hour that this was on CPAC, that it was going live. And again, it was a very brief discussion, but it's going to paint a picture as to where Alberta stands in the future. Let's check the comments. Let's see what people have to say. Solana Portal, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. My dream is a Western Republic nation with oil terminals built on our east coast, Hudson's Bay, and several terminals in the of the west coast with pipelines running to all of them. So we know that Wab Kinew has come out stating that he wants to open up energy exports to Hudson's Bay, that he wants to work in tandem with British Columbia, or at least the BC interior, Alberta, Saskatchewan, pushing a pipeline, pushing some form of an extension of energy, so to speak. When we talk about liquid natural gas and other resources to Hudson's Bay, I think it could be beneficial. And I also think it could be a new discussion in terms of, if Alberta were to gain its independence, could this form a Western Republic of Canada? Let's jump into what was just shown at the ministers' meeting, because it just wrapped up. At least what they were showing, what they were streaming live, just wrapped up. Again, I'll kind of show you guys along where things have gone here. And then we have a lot to discuss. When you look over here, this is roughly 50 minutes into a live stream. Now, throughout this entire 50 minutes, it was merely empty tables, empty seats, press snapping pictures. There was nothing going on. We're only looking at about 11 minutes of actual streamed footage. I think it's weird that they call these live streams, that they do these things. And I know people are going to say, well, Fringe, you're live right now. What does that mean? Well, it's important to get the information out as soon as possible. Let's take a listen to what went down. Again, it's only about 11 minutes, folks, and then we're going to discuss. Let's go.
Can you move back a little bit? Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, I got the loose camera on your shoulder.
So the mic is being cut out. We're not hearing anything from anybody. I'm just going to turn the volume down until, again, keep in mind, I haven't seen what went down over this 11 minutes of footage that they called a live stream. But as soon as they start speaking, I'll, of course, raise the volume. And while I could skip ahead, I just don't want to miss anything that happened.
Well, thank you, everyone. And I want to begin by
Here we go.
welcoming everyone to the room. I want to thank Prime Minister Carney for providing us this offer, not only of a First Minister's meeting, but for providing the offer for us to host it here in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Alongside our Prime Minister, I want to also thank, I see Minister Freeland, Minister LeBlanc, I have not seen his seat. Hey, Dom. Good to see you, my friend. And Minister Hodgson as well is here. Thank you very much for joining us. And I want to welcome all of my colleagues, premiers around the table. Some new faces around the table for us, but many of them, and in particular Doug and Francois, we've been sitting around the table for a long time. Some of our constituents might say far too long, but I would disagree with them. But thank you and welcome everyone here today. Just a quick note, and I think Wab and increasingly Danielle would share our concerns, and everyone would provide our best wishes and our thoughts with the firefighters and all of those that are defending their communities throughout the northern prairie provinces right now. And I think what is happening with respect to how we are sharing resources across this nation, how we are sharing wildfire resources, whether it be the tankers that we have, the firefighters that we have, the military has come in and evacuated a couple of communities that were cut off. How everyone has come together, whether it be tankers coming from Quebec, resources from Nova Scotia, British Columbia, the Northwest Territories has provided resources. And a couple of years ago, it was the tables were turned, where the challenge was very much in the territories. Yukon, New Brunswick, as well as Alaska, Oregon, and Arizona are providing resources into Western Canada as well, which I think speaks to a broader relationship that we're all collectively working on as well. Many others around this table are consistently reaching out to the three of us to offer resources, and for that we're very grateful. And I think when we look back over the last 5 years or so, we have been able to provide those resources to other jurisdictions, and it's that ability for us to really be more than a sum of our parts in Canada that is the approach that I would hope each of us takes to these meetings here today. The Prime Minister has set out goals for us as Canadians to collaboratively work on, for us to have the strongest economy in the G7 nation, for us as Canadians and as a country of Canada to become a global energy superpower. And I think when we look at the collaboration in which we come together to protect our communities, our homes, and our families across this nation, year in, year out, we approach this conversation today and for the weeks and months and years ahead in building towards those goals of strengthening that economy so it is leading the G7, strengthening our opportunity and providing an opportunity for us as Canadians to become a global energy superpower. Canadians will be well served by the work that we collectively are doing here today. And so to my premiers, 13, myself and 12 others that collectively do represent all Canadians, and to our Prime Minister and our federal ministers that are here, I welcome you. I thank you for bringing this meeting together here today, Prime Minister. I think it is truly an opportunity that lies at the feet of not only the federal government, but each of us as subnational leaders to unite this nation and to really seize the opportunity that I see before us as Canadians. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Premier. I said this last night. I'm going to make a habit of it. I'd like to just follow you all the time in making remarks, because I just want to reinforce everything the Premier just said. It's absolutely correct. And
I might have to form a new party.
I would, yes, that's true. There maybe not every single time, but on issues of nation building and cooperation, without question. Thank you for the great Saskatchewan hospitality on very short notice. It was really only a month ago that we spoke and struck the date for this meeting, and under challenging circumstances. And just reiterate the Northern Prairie provinces, the challenges of the wildfires that are raging, and the cooperation that we're seeing across the provinces, across Canada. Volunteers, the Canadian Armed Forces, help from some of the Americans as well. 30,000 evacuees, and bravery and charity, the best of Canada being shown. 40 years ago was the last time there was a First Minister meeting in the province of Saskatchewan. It was in Regina then. Prime Minister Mulroney had convened it. One of the conclusions of the meeting was that they should meet again. Always a little suspect, and here we are. The conclusion was First Ministers should meet on an annual basis. Certainly more than exceeded that. And I think it's a testament that both for First Ministers, but very importantly, supplemented, if not superseded, by the Council of the Federation and your leadership, Doug, bringing together the provinces to help build this country. Back in 1985, it was the run-up to what would then be the free trade agreement with the United States, and a long process of integration that brought great prosperity to both our nations, culminating in the best trade deal ever. As someone once called it. Some call it USMCA, we call it CUSMA. But that situation, as we all know, has changed. We're in the process of redefining our relationship with the United States. That's ongoing. Mr. LeBlanc and others leading those discussions, but working very much in partnership around this table in terms of our priorities and how we're defining it. But also taking matters very much into our own hands, parce que nous sommes maîtres chez nous. Nous pouvons contrôler notre destin économique, notre destin de sécurité. And that's what this meeting is about. Building a stronger Canadian economy, building one Canadian economy, and I really want to salute the leadership around this table. I can't keep up with the flurry of announcements of free trade agreements between provinces and across the country. The federal government will do its part, tabling legislation very shortly to eliminate federal barriers to interprovincial movement of goods and people, and also to put in place an ability to advance projects of national interest. And again, we have seen the leadership around this table of developing truly nation-building projects. And this is just the start. This is just the start. And it's what Canadians expect and what they deserve. En mars, à notre première rencontre, nous avons décidé d'unir nos forces pour bâtir un Canada fort, répondre à la menace posée par les tarifs américains illégaux et injustifiés, et accélérer la réalisation de grands projets et abattre des barrières qui freinent le commerce et la mobilité de la main-d'œuvre au pays. Now, the coming weeks and months will be critical, really, to turn the momentum that's been created by you around this table, that the federal government is looking to add to translate that momentum, those ideas into action. But I'm very confident with the experience, the expertise, the goodwill, and the support of Canadians that we will do just that, including through the leadership of the Council of the Federation. And with that, I will turn to Premier Ford.
That's great. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Prime Minister, for bringing us all together. And I want to thank you, Scott, for hosting us. What a great host. We've had great discussions since last night, and we'll have further discussions how we can be more resilient country and coming together. I always say united we stand, divided we fall. We're going to have great discussions. I know Canadians want hope, they want prosperity, they want opportunity. And I feel if everyone cooperates and collaborates, we're going to make that happen. We'll make it happen, as you were saying, Scott. We will be a superpower when it comes to energy of all forms. And that's our goal today, to make sure that we have large national infrastructure projects that will benefit every Canadian from coast to coast to coast. And again, I just want to thank everyone for joining us. I look forward to having you in July over to Ontario, and get a couple cigars ready, Dom, because you took off from us last night. But we look forward to hosting you there. And thank you, everyone, for joining us.
So that was it. That was all they broadcast. Now, there's a reason I wanted to show this. There was a reason I wanted to bring this up and kind of talk with this live stream. Because again, I was told at the 11th hour that this was going live. Now, keep in mind, CPAC broadcasted this for a total of 51 minutes. This was a 51-minute broadcast where, if I go back, you can see it's going to start soon. Then it's just an empty room, and then filming chairs. The reason that this is important, the reason that I wanted to do a live stream anyways, even though the stream technically ended just as we were going live, was to show what went down and what it means, the significance of what it means moving forward. Because there's a lot to unpack here. You'll notice that, and believe me, I am not trying to take the DEI route, but three men at the table, one of them Scott Moe, the other Doug Ford, closet liberal, and Mark Carney giving his ahs and ums. No other premiers were given an option to speak. Doug Ford joking about cigars. Really, at a time when the country's falling apart, you're going to talk about cigars and joke around when the country's unity is in question? I want to show you guys what went down over the weekend so that you understand why I thought this live stream is important. So much hate from Alberta? Are you talking about the people, or are you talking... I don't know what to make of that. Let's take a look at what went down over the weekend. Danielle Smith tweets out. Maybe I'll make this a little larger for you. Yesterday, I met with Premier Mark Carney. While there appears to be desire to move forward with new projects, including a West Coast bitumen pipeline, a clear commitment is needed to act on barriers that have held back private investment, such as the production cap, the tanker ban, C-69, net zero power regulations. Without movement on these issues, there will be no significant investment in oil and gas, leaving $14 trillion of value in the ground to the profound detriment of all Canadians. You can see in these photos, Danielle doesn't look happy. There's another one where all the other premiers were smiling, laughing, while Danielle had a serious face. Nobody wants to take Alberta seriously. Of course, you have Jeffrey Rath down here saying there's nothing that Carney can offer Alberta more valuable than a complete end to all federal taxes and regulations of Alberta. Alberta Independence is the only rational choice for the actual citizens of Alberta, as opposed to the billionaires that appear to unduly influence the so-called Team Canada approach of your government. This is the problem, is that yet again, throughout this meeting, not once has Alberta Independence been discussed, or the threat of a referendum. Scott Moe, who was very blunt that he was now allowing discussions of a vote, that he wasn't going to, the same as Danielle, he was not going to interfere with the citizens' rights to vote. I have a video coming out about that this afternoon. And also why the rest of the world is scared. There's a reason they're scared. Danielle Smith said, is what I wrote, Mark Carney had until Sunday to show commitment. He's giving word salad, which he just did during this live stream. Sounds to me like this is the final nail in the coffin for Confederation. This will only drive Alberta independence. Now, many people can say, look, Danielle didn't say anything. Danielle hasn't posted anything. You have to realize Danielle's marching orders as a premier, and she talks about this. I'll bring up the video from her Q&A in Calgary last weekend. Again, I dropped a video on that. She has to promote a unified Canada. She has to do everything in her power to at least seem she is negotiating with Mark Carney, with the rest of Canada. You can't just say, well, we're mad, we're going to go home. It'll destroy the Alberta separatist. It'll destroy the independence movement in Alberta. If Danielle Smith, and I want everybody to think about this for a second, if Scott Moe, if Danielle Smith, if Wab Kinew, who's also floated the idea, were to start saying, you know what, we've had enough, we're done, we're standing behind an independence movement. You alienate the parts of your province that are already leery or don't have their questions answered when it comes to independence of a province, for leaving Confederation. You would spark concern amongst those who have old age pension to worry about, their Canada pension plan, their health care. How are we going to pay our bills? What have you done? As soon as a premier does that, it causes chaos. What Danielle Smith is doing, what Scott Moe is doing, is allowing the provinces to use their think tanks, to use independent organizations, nonpartisan as they claim, to organize and orchestrate a question on a ballot so that once a vote takes place, once those votes come in, a more serious step can be taken to at least say, we have a yes vote. We have a unanimous vote. We have to move forward. I have to respect the opinions of my constituents. They have spoken up in a legal vote. We must honor that vote. It's no longer a premier driving a wedge into the country to say, well, I'm mad and this and that. You realize, and again, if Danielle Smith were to all of a sudden turn around and say, hey, Alberta's going. Alberta's leaving. We're done. We're fed up. Mark Carney screwed the pooch. We're out of here. It would immediately paint Alberta as the enemy of Canada. It would drive a wedge from other provinces. It would signify, again, a lot of confused people to come out and say, well, why don't I have a say? Why do you get to decree that we're leaving Alberta? Why do you get to say, we're gone, we're going? Let me try pulling up Danielle's Q&A, because this is important. Danielle Smith said that she was giving Mark Carney sorry, folks, I'm trying to pull it up here. Sorry, let me just hit Q and A. Here we go. Let's take a look at Danielle Smith and what she did over the weekend. Now, this was, unlike the ministers' meeting, this was an hour-and-a-half broadcast. And I said we should have watched this as a watch party. We should have done a live stream of this event. And if there's future events, we definitely will. I want to go through this with you guys because Danielle gives a very powerful speech about Alberta, about where things are going, and I want to get to her Q&A because there's a lot of good questions that are asked here. Let's go through the questions because it not only shows a little bit of where Danielle's planning to take things. Somebody says, call it Western Canada. Fair enough. Look, you have to understand, we can't all argue semantics all the time. People know what we're meaning, what we're talking about. Let's take a listen to what Danielle has to say in her questions because it also paints a picture in the room. It shows where people stand. Keep in mind, this is in Calgary, where there's now a mixture of mostly conservative, but also NDP voters, Liberal voters now coming into the fray. And these are business owners that are at this event, by the way. Business owners are in this event. If you guys haven't hit the thumbs up yet, hit the thumbs up button. If we can break 1,000 likes in this live stream, we'll do a giveaway to a Patriots Club member during this stream, by the way. If you haven't yet joined the Patriots Club, it supports the channel. YouTube has been suppressing videos. I'm not trying to shill. I'm just letting people know that when you join the Patriots Club, your name is entered into draws. We usually do them once a month at the end of the month. If we can break 1,000 likes, one lucky Patriots Club member will be able to choose one item from our shop free of charge, any item they wish. So hit that thumbs up. Let's get to Danielle's questions. We'll go through these, and I'll show you what this paints for Alberta's future.
Oh, and I've got Miles McDougall over there. So why don't we begin, perhaps, with Rebecca Schultz. Do we have a question from the audience? Or you can ask me one if nobody wants to take the first question.
I mean, I'm not tall, but I can see when you raise your hand.
All right. Who's the first? Okay, it's going to be John Williams.
Oh, here we go. We got John Williams. He's representing Calgary Mountain View. He's on the board there, and he'd like to ask you a question, Premier.
Premier, first off, you are doing more for this province than any other premier ever has. You move government at a pace that is unprecedented. Most premiers take on 4 or 5 projects. You've taken on about 30, and you've achieved great success for the betterment of our province. And I'm very grateful for that, as is everybody in this room.
Now, John, I know you have a question to ask there, but let me just give some praise to my caucus and my cabinet colleagues, because the process I go through when I'm establishing a mandate letter is I have some ideas of what I want to do. They've got some ideas of what they want to do. We look at what the member passed policy is, and then we write a mandate letter. And I can tell you, we ended up with, I think, over 250 items by going through that process, and we're 95% done or started on those. So we're going to need to have a new throne speech in the fall. But I can tell you, when I talk about this being a team effort, it's because we've just got such an incredible team in the caucus. And thank you all for electing them and putting them there.
So I was thankful to see our past village idiot, Mr. Trudeau, depart politics. Sorry, I'm a little bit blunt, but we now have Mark Carney. And my opinion is now we have a guy that's just rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. Alberta has the ability to take control here. My question to you, Premier, is do we have the ability to set up our own Alberta Revenue Agency? Because I tell you what, if we own the money, we have the control. And you know what we've been taking advantage of for years? Alberta money that is made by all the people in this room and across this province, a lot of it should be spent in Alberta, and we've been screwed for years. I'd love to hear if we have the ability to create our own Alberta Revenue Agency and take back control.
John, thank you so much for the question. And I know it's been something that came out on the Fair Deal panel is, can we collect all of the provincial and federal taxes and just remit to Ottawa our share of what we owe for federal services? I mean, I think if we could do that, would we get some support for going about down that approach? Yeah. And it is not such a crazy idea. That's exactly how municipalities operate within Alberta. They collect all the property taxes and then they remit to us the education portion of the property tax. I did float at a municipal meeting. I said, well, would you like to reverse that? Would you like us to collect all of the tax and then just give you your portion? And they kind of said, hell's no. So that told me something, that if the municipalities don't want to give up that power, then why did we allow for Ottawa to overtax us on every aspect of tax collection that they do, under support us on every single federal program and take the difference and fund the rest of Canada? So I think you're right. We should never have given that up in the first place. Quebec wants to go to the kind of model that you're talking about. And my view is whatever Quebec gets, I want to. So if they manage to succeed in that, I promise you, we're going to be right behind them.
Now, this seems to be a common theme throughout these questions, that Danielle constantly uses Quebec as a comparison, and she rightfully should. Quebec gets a lot of preferential treatment in Canada when it comes to the federal government. Nobody can deny that. A lot of people say, well, it's because Ontario doesn't want Quebec to separate. They want to appease them, whatever have you. Whatever you have about Laurentian politics or anything else. This is Danielle saying, look, you can't give preferential treatment to one province over another. If you're going to give them those things because they hold the cards in your eyes, well, Alberta holds a lot of cards too. So we want those benefits. You can't just do that. She broke it down very well when talking about taking taxes from municipalities and deciding what their share is. That's not how it works. The country is broken. It's very broken. Let's get on to our next question, because again, this paints a picture in the room as to why people say, hey, Fringe, why do you keep saying Alberta's leaving? It's not leaving. Danielle isn't backing this up. You'll see the tone again. And keep in mind, for anybody who came in late, this was in Calgary over the weekend. And these are prominent business owners. These are people that drive our elections sitting in this audience. There's even folks like John Carpe. I believe he asks a question from the JCCF. These are all leaders in our municipalities sitting down to talk with Danielle. Let's go.
All right. I've got a question over here, Premier. You can introduce yourself.
Good evening, Madam Premier. Tom Kent, Calgary Elbow. As you probably know, today Janet Brown put out some new numbers, and it's 52% for us and 41% for the NDP. So,
no, 38.
Well, okay. It's only getting better by the hour. Anyway, the other thing they found, though, was that healthcare was probably going to be the #1 issue in the next election. No big secret. So I thought maybe this is a good opportunity with 2,000 of your nearest and dearest to start getting out a bit more of forget about the scandal and everything. What's really going on, as much as you can talk about it, and how you're chipping away at it?
As you know, politicians aren't supposed to pay attention to polls, but what I do find very interesting is that Janet Brown is one of the most accurate pollsters, and she doesn't normally release her results. So I think this was done as a special release for CBC. But when she first did it, we were at 46, and the new leader of the NDP was at 44. It was very tight when he first got in. And then the next poll had him at 40, and then this poll has him at 38. So I think that shows that whatever it is that they are trying to sell to the public's not buying it. Meanwhile, we're gaining ground, which I think is really important. It's a validation that you can do tough things and you can take tough positions, and people will be with you. And so I'm very pleased by that. And I feel like we got a mandate to make changes in healthcare. If you can imagine, when we came in, we basically had a $29 billion portion of our budget that we had no line of sight on. We basically cut a check to HS and said, okay, go run not only all your hospitals, but also contract out to your competitors at Covenant Health, and contract out to all the charter surgical facilities, and there's 50 of them, and contract out to EMS and run public health and choose our doctors, run mental health and addiction, run long-term care facilities. They were getting to a point where they were about to build social housing. They were taking over our entire government, and we had no line of sight onto how they were spending it. So I'll tell you that what we've done with creating 4 different departments, it's not just a cosmetic change. It's creating a healthy tension so that we have different entities who are providing different services. So the first door that every patient goes through should not have to be an emergency door at a hospital. Because if that's what happens, then you're underinvesting in all of those other areas. We want to invest in primary and preventative health services. That's going to be Adriana LaGrange's job, focusing on that. Let's get everyone a family doctor or a nurse practitioner and a family I think they're calling it a medical home, so that if you have something wrong or you need a test or you need a prescription, that's where you can go. We have about 600,000 patients that are unattached, and we want to get that down to 0. So that's one of the first things. The second thing is mental health and addiction. I have such sympathy for our hardworking frontline nurses and doctors, because as we've developed a very severe homeless mental health and addiction crisis, if there's nowhere for those folks to go, they end up staying in acute care beds in hospital. And so a lot of our emergency room beds, a lot of our acute care beds are folks who shouldn't be there. They should be in recovery. They should be in mental health supportive facilities. That's why we're building 750 new beds to be able to do that. So that will allow for a different type of medical professional to treat that type of patient. The third big area is we call them alternative levels of care. These are folks who go into the hospital maybe because they have an acute condition and then they get stuck there. There isn't a mechanism, if they can't get back out to their private home, of finding a facility. AHS didn't have a line of sight on all of that. And one of the stories that our minister responsible for that, which is Jason Nixon, Minister of Assisted Living and Social Supports, he found that there was one individual who needed about 7 days worth of acute care treatment and has been in the hospital 1,343 days and counting. We have others who've been in hospital for hundreds of days just because we haven't found an efficient way to get them into the right kind of care facility. So that's why we needed to have that focus in a different area. And then Matt Jones, who's going to be taking over on looking at hospital and acute care services. His job is going to be to implement activity-based funding, because one of the things that we discovered as we started digging in is that the only place that was increasing the number of surgeries was our charter surgical facilities. We gave $3.5 billion more to AHS in the last 6 years, and they're performing fewer surgeries today than they were 6 years ago, with $3.5 billion more. Meanwhile, our charter surgical facilities went from 40,000 surgeries to 63,000 surgeries. And yeah, and anyone who's had the experience of going through them, it's remarkable. But you know what we realized is, if you give an entity a lump of money and say, go do stuff, they find ways to do less and less and less. If you tell a facility, hey, we're only going to pay you if you do a surgery, they do more and more and more and more. So we're going to apply that thinking across the whole system. We are there now. We've got the 4 different ministries stood up. I've got 4 incredible ministers who are leading the charge in each of them. We've just got Rick Wilson now over in mental health and addiction. And I can tell you, you're going to start seeing some major changes over the course of the next year. So thank you for your patience on it. We couldn't have gotten there without having done all of the restructuring that we did now. But I think it's going to make a huge difference now.
Okay, so what to unpack from that question? And again, this is part of the reason that Alberta needs its independence. One of the things Danielle doesn't mention here, that, and somebody brought it up, is the illegal substances are no longer illegal to be in possession. There's a reason I feel that's glossed over. I'll get into that at a later time. But part of it, and one of the things she doesn't mention on top of that I wasn't really happy about, was NGOs. The amount of government waste that goes into things. Now, again, keep in mind, this is a dinner full of business people. She can't, these are the people who essentially promote her votes. Now, she can't come out and all of a sudden blast NGOs because they may be part of those NGOs. But essentially wasted funding is one of the things we have to watch out for. We have to make sure funding isn't wasted. Her idea for AHS, by simply making sure that those who have addictions are treated, she's taken a lot of blowback for that. She says we need to start treating people with addictions rather than safe consumption sites, rather than wasting money, again, putting them in hospital beds that could be used by other people. One of the bigger arguments could be given as well, why haven't we built any more hospitals with the amount of people coming in? Why haven't we built more schools, more roads, more infrastructure? Well, part of that is the money that comes from Ottawa. This is, again, where Danielle has said Quebec has a very unfair advantage to the tune of $16 billion a year that Alberta gives it, while the federal government gives Alberta nothing. We pay out more than we get back. Let's continue on to the next question.
You're on.
Hello. I'm just curious if a feasibility study of any substantiation exists, and if not, whether this UCP government would be willing to fund one just to substantiate whether Alberta can sustain on its own, and put aside the emotion. I think we're at about a 50% in favor based on an emotion-driven response, but I could tell from the people I speak to that if we had a fact-based report that outlined our strategy, we'd be much more successful. And I'm just curious if that report exists and if whether or not you'd be willing to fund it.
Well, I think that there are private think tanks who are probably going to fund that kind of research. I know that there's several different groups that are asking those questions. I'm watching all of those. I do still think it's my job to make the case to Ottawa about why they're better off if they just allow us to create wealth and stop standing in our way. That's what I hear Albertans want to do, is that if they could just get Ottawa to allow us to build a pipeline, get our products to market, twin the rail line going to Port of Prince Rupert so we can export more food and we can export more forest product and we can export more of our goods. I just feel like that is going to be the solution. So I think that there will probably be different think tanks who do the kind of analysis that you're suggesting. But I think my marching orders is to try to make Canada work, and that's what I'm going to do.
Did the mic really cut me out? There's a lot of weird things going on with YouTube these days. My God, I'm sorry. Is that better? Can you guys hear me now? Unbelievable. There's a lot of messing around going on YouTube these days. I'm getting into that in another video. I don't know if you guys noticed there's been channels that were cut off via censorship. Maybe we'll get into that towards the end of the stream. The internet quality is going down in this stream. Things are being pushed down. Hit that thumbs up, guys. Again, if we get to 1,000 likes, I'll do a merch giveaway to a Patriots Club member before the end of the stream. Here's where I'll start again. This is where we go back to say, this is what I said earlier about Danielle not being able to come in and say, I support Western independence. I support Alberta's independence. Ultimately, you have 51% of the province who are still unsure, unaware of what happens if Alberta were to claim independence, what happens to old age security, what happens to pensions, what happens to police, what happens to military, what happens to your taxes, your mortgages, what happens to our banking system, our currency. The questions go on and on. If Danielle were to say, even to this individual, I support Alberta's right to a referendum and their independence, their ultimate choice of independence, well, ultimately, it would drive a spike into the independence movement. It would flip it on its head. So again, you're going to notice that Danielle says, look, her job is to try and find a unified Canada, to try and negotiate with Mark Carney. She gets to the question where she puts the time limit on Sunday. And while I'm not expecting Danielle Smith to come out and outright say, okay, time's up, we're done, I do expect to question what kind of pushback we're going to see. What kind of reaction are we going to get after this first ministers meeting? Because we know that Mark Carney is not going to grant any pipelines. We know that he's not going to retool transfer payments or give Alberta what Quebec gets. She's doing what she has to do. I commend her for that. I think she's doing a good job. The reason that, and many people are confused here because they say the same thing with Scott Moe. They say the same thing with Danielle. Well, if they're really pushing for independence, why don't they just say it? By taking the time to say that they're negotiating at the table, Danielle's not stupid. She knows Mark Carney's not going to give her what she wants. That's why she created such a large list of things to be done, in my opinion. She knows that she's not going to get them. All it will do over time is drive Albertans to open up their own eyes to decide what's going on. She said at the end of this question, and there's a reason I brought that up again. I'm not trying to sound like a broken record. The reason I bring that up is because she said at the end of this question, I think I have my marching orders, which is the mandate she was given to run the province. When a vote goes through, if Albertans give her a new mandate of independence, then those are her marching orders. That's when things change, when the numbers are in Alberta's favor. I'll get to the next question because, again, these questions circulate a lot in terms of painting a picture where we're headed. where Alberta's headed and the tone that Albertans have. Because a lot of people are saying, well, Albertans don't want to talk about independence. They don't want to leave. This is a fringe minority.
Premier, over on this side, right behind you. Premier, over here, behind you, over here.
Hey, Minister Sadi.
Mr. Matt Campbell has a question for you.
Thank you, Premier. Thank you for all your hard work. We know you've got the very best interests of Albertans. Thank you. My question is, we appear to be being stonewalled again by Ottawa. Mr. Carney has not stated once about how he's going to eliminate the barriers that were put in place towards Alberta the last 10 years. How long are you going to allow Ottawa to basically stall the questions? Because I can see it coming. They're stalling. They're stalling. We're into stampede. We're into the summer. You know, we'll be into the fall, and nothing will happen. So there's got to be a bottom line, and what's it going to be?
Sunday. I'm giving him until Sunday. And I'm only partly joking on that, because we do have these first ministers meetings and ministerial meetings. All of the ministers take part in those with their counterparts and with the federal minister. For most of the time that I've been in this job, the prime minister doesn't show up. But with this new prime minister, I'll give him credit for this. He has met with us many times, and he's only been the prime minister for a few short months. But he is coming to Alberta on Sunday to meet with probably some people in this room, some business leaders in the energy sector, to get an idea of what it is that Alberta wants. And I can tell you, they're going to mirror the same things that we want, because I've been talking with them a lot. And we'll go to Saskatoon for a first ministers meeting. And what I hope will come out of that will be a consensus about how we're going to start building. So I don't think we have to wait that long. I think we will know in the communique that comes out after a day and a half of meetings whether this government is serious about changing course, or whether we're just going to have to double down on the fight. So you don't have to wait that long, just a couple more days.
All right, Premier.
Okay, so this was what I wanted to touch on by showing these questions. This was why I wanted to go to this after the first ministers meeting. Danielle says Sunday, and then you have to take into consideration, she says, I'm only partially joking. Now, if you go back to what we were just talking about, what I just said, in terms of why Danielle cannot openly promote Alberta independence, Western independence, why she can't say we're leaving, we're done. Not to mention it's considered treason for a premier to do that without a mandate or a referendum. What she's essentially doing here, and if you're missing what's going on, is it's kind of like one of those old card games or the shell game. Watch where the ball's going. Danielle is distracting on one end while Albertans are doing the work. Keep in mind, Alberta's a very hardworking province. It's full of people who aren't afraid of hard work. They're willing to get their hands dirty. She knows the numbers of what's going on in Alberta. And again, I've had many conversations with Danielle and her people. I can tell you that she is no idiot. What she's doing here is playing the part of a humbled negotiator, if you will. She's going to these meetings, she's doing her part, she's doing her job, she's following her mandate, saying, look, Mark Carney's done all these things, he's meeting with us, he wants to talk with us. I have to give him the benefit of the doubt, he's done more than other prime ministers have. She has to paint a picture that she's doing everything she can to work with this government. What you have to take out of that, and I know a lot of people's tempers get fueled, they get angered because they say, hey, Danielle's just another politician. She's just playing into what they want. What she's actually doing is putting the onus on Mark Carney, if you've missed that. What she's doing is saying, we haven't caused any tension. This is the same as Mark Carney is doing when he says, look, I'm willing to put in pipelines so long as Quebec wants to do it, so long as everybody's on board, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not here to cause a break in pipelines. It's everybody else that's the problem. Danielle's doing the same thing. Oh, I'm looking forward to talking with Mark Carney. I'm looking forward to coming up with solutions. I'll know based on the way he comes back to us what the intentions are and the commitments are to this country. She's putting him in the spotlight to say that should a referendum go through, should independence be voted on, this is not her fault for promoting any kind of messaging about Western independence. This is about Mark Carney's inability to read the room, to give Alberta the respect it deserves, to treat the West in general better than what they've got, more how they deserve. If anybody thinks that Danielle Smith is an idiot and that she is actually actively trying to work with Mark Carney or is excited to work with Mark Carney, this is a shell game. This is all part of a negotiation table. It's kind of like the old line that I said in last night's from a Marvel Avengers movie, a quote from Tony Stark: "Keep your friends rich, keep your enemies rich, and find out which is which." Danielle is playing a game here, and people say, 4D chess, just like Pierre, right? No, this is very different because it reshapes Canada. One person cannot actively stand up and say, let's burn the whole country down. Danielle has given that voice to her people. She has shown that she thinks that she has faith in that voice by lowering the threshold for that vote. People will forget that because they'll hear this kind of rhetoric and they'll just automatically say, oh, she's flip-flopped. She's not on our side. You know, she's talking about fixing the problem. Danielle, time is up. Sunday passed. This is where I say I'm more interested at what the dialogue shifts to after Sunday. We all know where Alberta stands. We all know Alberta's not going to get what's been required or what's been requested. We know that British Columbia Interior isn't going to get what they want when it comes to liquid natural gas development. We know that Saskatchewan isn't going to get what they're asking for. We know that Wab Canoe is going to have to sell his soul if he wants to get any kind of work up in Hudson's Bay with the blessings of the federal government. Mark Carney isn't interested in any of that. Again, you'll notice that so far, Mark Carney hasn't mentioned a single word about Western independence, about the fact that half of his country, if not slightly more based on landmass, is in disarray, talking about leaving Confederation. This is how you know they're scared. In Saskatchewan, the NDP have brought up a bill to make it almost virtually impossible for people who live in Saskatchewan to use their voice to ask for and seek a referendum. Because they've said, hey, we don't want to give up our control. We don't want to give back any of the power you've given us. Now they tout, as they go through those press conferences, we don't think a vote will go through anyways. And people in Alberta have said the same thing. Nobody's going to vote for independence. It's just a fringe minority. It's a small group of people. It's 40-something% of rural voters in the province. They don't realize what they're doing. They don't understand. It's not going to happen. Here's my question to you, the viewer. If it's not going to happen, then why are they freaking out so much? Why are they trying to change the rules? Why do you have paid First Nations leaders from groups like the Tide Foundation taking money to come out and talk about treaties, which if they could actually read a treaty, if you go through the laws on treaties and how the land works, and we've covered it to great extent, I'm not going to go over it again. You can check our past videos. The law clearly states what Alberta can and can't do. You have constitutional lawyers who have shown that they've negotiated with said First Nations, that everyone gets one vote. These chiefs and their special interest groups who are corrupt, who take money from other parties in order to toe a line, to demolish industries such as oil and gas. They're scared. If the government truly felt that Saskatchewan, Alberta, Manitoba, any province that was to hold a referendum would not leave, they wouldn't interfere. They wouldn't try to change the rules. They wouldn't try to negotiate. They would simply say, you guys are off your rocker. The proof is in the pudding. when you look at the interference that's going on, and I'll get into it later in the stream about YouTube interference, because things have shifted there as well. They're all scared. And for anybody who says it's never going to happen, keep in mind that people said the same thing about Brexit. And I'm not saying that Alberta's 100% going to go, but what I'm saying is that there's a silent majority that they haven't voiced their opinions yet. Keep in mind, when these polls go out, they're ignoring that silent majority. And watch those naysayers flip out should Alberta get 50+1 on that referendum. And all of a sudden they go, oh, well, you can't leave. It doesn't matter what the vote says. You can't go anywhere. You're not allowed to leave. Well, you said it wasn't going to happen. Well, it did, and now I'm saying you can't go. Anybody else see a problem here? Let's continue with what Danielle had to say, because again, like I said, paints a picture in the room. If you guys want me to stop showing Danielle and we just focus on live chat, tell me, but I think these questions are important. I think that when you look at the First Minister's meeting, and again, the fact Danielle wasn't even given the mic to speak, this is going to paint a picture as to where Alberta's headed.
Here.
All right.
Nope.
Back on the
Rebecca.
other side again here, Premier, we have Steve Chapman.
I guess I'm only the deputy premier. It's okay. Go ahead, Rebecca.
Hello, Premier. Steve Chapman, Calgary, Acadia. I've had the opportunity to be a Calgary police officer and recognize the vital service and need that we deliver to Albertans who are in imminent emergency. Alberta's done a good job in terms of saying every Albertan has the right to education, every Albertan has the right to medical attention. I don't feel that we're giving every Albertan the same access to policing as long as funding is being delivered by municipalities. Will the province take a look at perhaps taking over that funding model so that we can guarantee that every Albertan has access to police when they need it?
Well, this isn't where I'm going to call for a lifeline, Steve. So I think I've got Mike Ellis.
Oh, now you're calling upon
our
me.
public safety and emergency services minister, who probably has he probably has some really interesting information to share with you on that, because we're developing a couple of different things. We're supporting municipalities in being able to determine the police force that's right for them. And we've got some great information we just got from Grand Prairie coming back from our caucus meeting. And then he's also acknowledging the incredible training our sheriffs already have and creating an opportunity for them to do policing so that they can also be dispatched to communities. So Mike, why don't you tell a little bit more about that and the specific ask that Steve had?
Yeah, no, thanks very much. And Steve, thanks very much for the question. Look, this is obviously a very complex issue. We have, of course, empowered our municipalities. Actually, we're empowering our municipalities to really, decide what is best for their future, right? So obviously there are municipal police forces, Calgary, Edmonton, Lethbridge, Medicine Hat, just to name a few. But what we found out, especially in rural Alberta, is that the costs are going up to almost unsustainable numbers. The cost increase are going up by over 50% with no better service, no more officers. And I can tell you that I have met with, for sure, well, not just RMA and AUMA, but certainly, well over 50, municipalities just in person, over 40 First Nations in person. And I can tell you that they're all looking for something different. So what we've done is we provided a $30,000 grant. It's not available anymore, but we had well over about 35 municipalities that took us up on this to decide what's going to be best for their future and whatever that policing model is going to be. I can tell you that we've had a number of municipalities that have committed to us, actually, that they would like the sheriffs to be their police of jurisdiction. Coaldale being one of them, Hardisty being another, and that I'm going to give credit, of course, to Premier Smith in regards to that, because Hardisty, which is really the heartbeat of our oil and gas industry, and really it is extremely vulnerable at this time. So we will be putting a detachment in Hardisty to protect our critical energy industry right now.
Yeah. If I may add what we heard when we went to Grand Prairie, this is why I have some confidence that municipalities should continue to lead this. When they did the study based on the funds that we gave them, they found out that they could get the same or better service and save $8 million by going to their own municipal police force. Now, they've since told us not to use that number because instead of reducing the number of dollars that they spend to police, they're just going to add the number of officers. So right now they have a complement of 55, and it's mostly RCMP. They're just transitioning over. By the time they're done, they think they'll have 110 officers policing their community. And that to me is a real success of the model that we're putting in place. And I think a real success of the municipal leadership. So we'll keep an eye on it. Maybe you and I should talk a little bit more. I suspect you probably would have a few things to say about some of the larger forces. And so we'll continue to have the conversation. But we're really pleased with some of the initiatives that we're seeing on the part of the municipalities right now.
Thanks, Premier. I'm going to, before I get to John here, who wants to ask you a question, I just want to just add on to the Grand Prairie thing. Just very simply, is their study showed more officers, better service, better oversight, and then ultimately cheaper. So it's win-win-win. I can tell you Grand Prairie is leading the country right now. When I talk to ministers across the country, everybody is following Alberta, whether it becomes the Alberta Sheriffs or whether it comes to what we're doing at Grand Prairie. So thank you very much. I'm going to have John Carpe here from Calgary Glenmore ask you a question. Thank you.
So we have John Carpe coming in here. Now, again, Danielle points it out. If you don't know John Carpe, he's actually one of the heads of the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms that worked alongside the Freedom Convoy, alongside Keith Wilson, everybody else. So again, you've got a lot of prominent people in this audience. Again, you can see in the background here, a lot of business owners, a lot of Calgary's influentials. So these aren't just fringe minority citizens breaking into this gala asking Danielle Smith all of these questions in regards to Alberta independence. These are people weighing their options. These are people understanding what's the direction of this province. Where do we go from here? I want to highlight this comment. You're forgetting the case of Quebec's attempted separation. At the end of the day, many companies left and moved to Toronto, and the southern part of Quebec wanted to separate from Quebec. So I understand that, but the difference is we're not Quebec. Quebec wanted to separate because of elitist behavior. It was all a matter of politics. Alberta is wanting its independence, not separation. They want their independence because of abuse, because of tax dollars being funneled out, because of scandalous behaviors. Alberta is set to use its resources as well as its wealth to bolster a province that takes little to no taxes. I don't know if people are aware of that, but when you have a province that gains a high enough vote to leave, that brings in no federal tax rates, a very low standard taxation system for all people, one bottom line of taxes that's low on the bar. How many companies do you think are going to come to Alberta? How many companies do you think will flee to Alberta to say we're going to save millions, if not billions in taxes than keeping our offices in Canada? By going to Alberta, by going to Saskatchewan, if either of those were to do that. If you don't think that's possible, look at what happened in Texas. They're flourishing. Absolutely flourishing for what they did with their taxation system. Businesses left California. People left California. They said enough of this nonsense, enough of this woke garbage, and they went to Texas and they're flourishing. So Alberta could do something very similar, very easily, I might add. And with those head offices, with those companies moving out here, comes job creation, comes sprawling economy, comes more money back into an independent Alberta to distribute to its citizens and provide services that the federal government wasn't giving us before. So somebody please tell me where this is a bad idea. Again, I'm not trying to convince people one way or the other, but I'm trying to ask the honest question. When people say, oh, what about my Canada pension plan that I get a whole $900 a month from? What about an Alberta one that gives you what you actually deserve, what you actually need to live? What about an independent province where fuel costs pennies on the dollar, where your utilities aren't through the roof, where there's no consumer carbon tax, where there's no 40% of your pay going to the government so that they can jet set around the world and huff their own farts eating caviar and committing scandals and giving billions of dollars to their buddies in contracts and laundered money? Where is this a bad idea? Somebody please point it out to me. Snow with a $10 super chat. Thank you so much. Morning, I'm late as usual. Could you give me the cliff notes about what I missed? Essentially what happened was they said that they were doing a live stream of the First Minister's meeting. It was a 10-minute speech of Mark Carney's ums and ahs. Doug Ford spoke. Scott Moe spoke. Mark Carney spoke for the most part. Nothing really to wrap up, but it does paint a picture for where Alberta's headed. That's what we're going over here with Danielle's Q&A over the weekend. Let's get to John Carpe.
For those of you who don't know, John is the head of the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, and he's done some really great work on defending our freedoms for many years. So thank you for your work.
Thanks for your kind words, Premier. Thanks for your leadership. My question is about free expression and regulatory bodies. It's a problem across Canada, also in Alberta. We've seen how Dr. Jordan Peterson was pursued by his own college, not over any failure in how he treated his...
Sorry, folks. I wanted to highlight this just while everybody's here. Why was there nothing on YouTube about the town hall for Alberta Prosperity last week? The 9th, a week today, I will be in Red Deer covering the Alberta Prosperity Project's next town hall. Tune into the channel. I'll be live streaming the entire town hall, front row seat, so you guys will have a clear picture as to what's going on. I've talked with APP about being essentially one of their key drivers, one of their people to get their media out so that everybody's getting their questions answered. I'm also going to reach out to David over at Moose on the Loose, other large channels that I'm in contact with, to see about making sure people are getting the information necessary as we move towards. We already know we're getting the vote, but it's to get people educated, to get people to understand the facts on independence. Hang out here on the channel next Monday. Don't forget to do a test stream too, somebody says. We got it covered. Thank you. I'll make sure it's all good. But be here next Monday. We're going to be covering the APP Town Hall live. Let's continue with John Carpe. I'm sorry to cut in on that. Let's go.
Clients in a counseling session, but simply over his public speech. In British Columbia, the nurse Amy Ham has been disciplined by her BC College of Nurses and Midwives, overstating publicly that there are two genders. And it's a problem in Alberta. We've had the College of Physicians and Surgeons threatening doctors, commencing disciplinary proceedings against doctors simply for participating in scientific debate. We've got the Law Society of Alberta, which has sent threatening letters to lawyers, again, nothing pertaining to their practice, but simply for publicly speaking their political views. And I submit that the role of the regulatory body should be to ensure a code of ethics and proper professional conduct, should not extend to trying to regulate the speech of whether it's teachers, psychologists, doctors, lawyers. And so my question is, what do you have in mind for restoring free speech or increasing the amount of free speech that we have in Alberta vis-a-vis regulatory bodies?
Well, thank you for that question, John. And I'll probably get another lifeline here if Mickey Amory, our Justice Minister, wants to make his way to a microphone. I can start by answering that question, but let me get Mickey to tell you a little bit more about the direction we're going. And John, it's because of a lot of the work that you've done in exposing this and the problems over the years that we knew that we needed to act on it. One of the things I would say is that we've got a couple of really key positions that are going vacant due to retirements. And if there's any doctors in the house, we are looking for a chief medical officer of health and a registrar for the College of Physicians and Surgeons who will know that there is that respect line that we have for a difference of opinion in the medical profession. We used to have a tolerance for a difference of opinion in the medical profession. I don't know how we ended up losing that, but we've got to get it back. So we've got a couple of open competitions happening right now, and I hope we can find the right person. But barring that, we have to put some legislative barriers in place to regulatory colleges that overstep what we've given them the mandate to do. Why do we have these self-regulating professions? Well, we don't want them ripping off clients. We don't want them engaging in bad practice and hurting people. We don't want them committing fraud. These are very legitimate reasons to have professional colleges and oversight bodies. It's not so that one medical professional can tattletale and another medical professional because they didn't like what they put on Twitter, or they didn't like how they talked to somebody, or they didn't like that they expressed a public view. That is not the reason why we have these colleges. It shouldn't be weaponizing one professional against another. And so we've come to the conclusion we probably need to have, I think we're calling it Peterson's Law around our table. And we're going to see if we can put some barriers around that. Is Mickey still with us, or do I have to explain what Peterson's Law is?
Mickey stepped out, Premier. He'll be back, but he's not available.
Oh, we had to step out. Okay, so here's what we will do. It will be as exactly as I described. Is that we will put a few more guardrails around what constitutes a legitimate action for a professional governance body to intervene and give disciplinary action against one of their members. And it's not just law, it's not just medical professions, it's across the board. So do know that we've heard the call loud and clear, and we're going to make sure that we bring forward some robust legislation in the fall.
So again, Danielle has her bases covered. First off, I have to give a special shout out to Arthur OK. Thank you for gifting 5 unacceptable Fringe memberships to the Patriots Club. Welcome to all 5 of our new members. Have we hit 1,000 likes yet, folks? Have we hit 1,000 likes? Remember, if we get 1,000 likes in the stream, we'll be doing a giveaway to 1 Patriots Club member. You must be a member of the Patriots Club. Hit the join button down below. It supports the channel. Winner of that lottery gets 1 item of choice from our shop, any item they choose, hoodie, hat, t-shirt, whatever you like from our many designs. John says we're at 688 likes. Get them up there, folks. If we hit 1,000, I'm doing a giveaway today. If you haven't yet joined the Patriots Club, make sure you do. Shill over. Did I see with my eyes correctly? Did Master of Snatch join the stream? Is Master of Snatch in here? I hope he is. I know he is. Welcome into everybody. Thank you also to our mods who are doing an amazing job on this stream, by the way. Big shout out to our mods. You guys are doing a great job keeping things prudent, keeping things in line, so to speak. I know the trolls are out full force. Enjoy it, folks. I know people say, oh, it's havoc. Oh, look at the trolls. This is, again, where you know we're winning this. We are totally winning this fight. People are scared. They go, well, now I'm just talking common sense. We're not scared. Yeah, you guys are scared. They're scared. They know what's coming. They know what's happening. Let's go. Let's continue with Danielle's questions.
Premier, over here on this side, we have Mr. Funder, who has a question for you.
Hello, Premier. You've done a wonderful job over the past 2 years since we've elected you.
I've missed you on the air. He used to call me. He used to call me every week or text me.
Yes.
It's nice to see you in person.
So you mentioned. Sorry, my question has to do with the Sovereignty Act. So I admit that I don't know enough about it, but is the Sovereignty Act enough to overcome the federal overreach on our province, or are we dependent upon Mark Carney stepping aside and allowing us to do what we want to do as a province and become an economic superpower?
Well, I can tell you we're going to find out, because the way you know what, one of the things I found when I was running for leadership is people said, why can't we have a notwithstanding clause so that we can override bad federal laws that we don't like? That's what people said. Why don't you just use the notwithstanding clause and say you're not going to follow that federal law? And so that's kind of what the Sovereignty Act is. It's when federal governments overreach their area of jurisdiction, invade our jurisdiction, we're going to basically say, notwithstanding what the federal government wants to do, they don't have the legal authority to do that, so we are not going to follow their laws. And so the first invocation of it was with the net zero power regs. We're still trying to negotiate that one, but I can tell you, if they continue to persist in telling us that we cannot bring new natural gas power on stream unless it's fully abated by 2035, on pain of sending our CEOs to jail if they don't reach that target, we are going to have to build those power plants anyway, because we have a safety issue for our people here. We cannot have the power grid fail in minus 30 in the middle of winter or plus 30 in the middle of summer. And it's not ideological. People die. People died in Texas, hundreds of them, when they ran out of power in the middle of winter. People die in the middle of heat waves when they can't cool down. So that is one way that we will enact it. There are a number of other proposals that we're looking at. One of the things that that we did as well is we took authority over all the emissions data. So the emissions data from our companies have to be reported to us, and then we will share it with the federal government. We made our federal sites, or we made our sites for oil and gas development. We made them critical infrastructure, and federal agents are not allowed to walk on those properties without our permission. When it comes to firearms owners' rights, we said that municipalities and police forces, it is not our priority to go after law-abiding gun owners. Our priority is to go after the bad guys who are smuggling guns across the border or using them to commit crimes. So in some ways,
Now I want to touch in on what she's talking about here, because this is again where it paints a picture in the room about Alberta independence. She doesn't want the government overreaching on people's shovels, on their weapons of choice, so to speak. Danielle takes a very strong stance on that. She doesn't believe that the government has the right to overreach that. The government oversteps its policies all the time. She knows that Mark Carney will never allot for that in Canada. They'll always blame farmers. They'll blame everybody else. She stands with Albertans. This is again where I'm saying this is a shell game that's going on. She's painting a picture that, hey, we just want a fair deal. Mark, why can't you give that to us? And when he doesn't, when he fails, when we all know he's going to, and a vote goes through, then Danielle has the option to say, I have a new mandate. I'm ready to go. She's awesome. Big shout out. Guys, give a thumbs up in the chat and a clap hands emoji to Michelle Savard for being this stream's most amazing troll. Completely clueless. Let's give a shout out to Michelle, guys. Absolutely. Savard, it should be Michelle Savage, saying Danielle's a liar and all these things. Come on. Oh, big applaud to Michelle Savard for being off your medication today. I hope you're enjoying the stream. I hope the rest of you guys are. Let's continue with Danielle, shall we?
what we've already done is we are exercising our authority in our full range of constitutional jurisdiction. And if the federal government wants to come after us and try to disallow our laws, that will be up to them. They've been playing this game with us for years. They pass laws that are unconstitutional and illegal, and then they make us go for years and years and years to get a court decision on them. Well, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to pass laws, and if they think they're illegal, they can come after us. But we believe that this is the right way for us to make sure that our Constitution is honored. We are equal orders of government. We are not a subordinate level of government to Ottawa. We have powers, they have powers, and they just need to start respecting that the Constitution says what it says. And we're going to do whatever we can to force it. If we have to pass a few more Sovereignty Act motions, a few more notwithstanding clauses, we're going to do that.
All right. I feel very passionately about that one, Premier, so thank you very much. Although the new Environment Minister said she will not be throwing anybody in jail, and I said, your legislation still says that, so I would suggest starting there. But I'm told we have 5 minutes left. So I'll hand it over to Miles next. For those who are still waiting to ask questions, the quicker we ask those questions and the quicker we get them answered, hopefully we can get a
Let's
couple
take
more
everybody who's currently at a mic, and then we'll wrap them up. I think what Rebecca was telling me is shorter answers, not shorter questions. So
good at that.
I'll
a
try.
little bit of both.
Calgary Northeast. First off, thanks for appointing him to the cabinet, one of my long-term friends. Great to see you. My question is this. Many of us in this room have built our companies and our lives on north-south partnerships. How are we within an independent, or within a united Canada, going to build an independent economic relationship with our partner to the south, whether that be United States or Mexico?
I can tell you, I know everybody was shocked by the treatment of the new U.S. president of our country, and I was shocked too. I mean, I thought that it was going to be an era of just amazing partnership with the United States, that together we were going to be able to get pipelines built, access to market, and we were just going to rocket ship up together. And I've been a bit taken aback and surprised by the last 6 months myself. That being said, I'm also intergovernmental and international affairs minister, and so my job is to engage in diplomacy and go and talk to people and find out why it is they're treating us this way and what we can do to try to get a breakthrough. And I can tell you, we got that. We've got really good relationships with various secretaries in the US government. We've got great relationships as well with governors, with members of the House of Representatives, with the Senate, who are advocating on our behalf. And part of the case that we made was that America wants energy dominance. You can't get there without Canada. America consumes 19 million barrels of oil a day. They only produce 13 million barrels of oil a day. So they've got to get the amount that they need to fill that gap from somewhere. And some of the other countries in the world that provide our particular brand of heavy oil are Iran and Venezuela. And we are much better partners than those two countries. The other thing that I've said to them is if they want to continue to produce and export more, we can be the producer that backfills to keep prices low in North America, and then they can use their WTI to export internationally to achieve some of their international goals. It's sort of a second thing that I've said to them. And I've also made the same argument on whether it's electricity or critical minerals or food or fiber. We can provide the materials that help to go to value added, and we buy back more goods from America than anyone else on the planet, which is amazing because we're 1/10 their size and we're their biggest customer. So I would say that all of those arguments have broken through because I hear them being talked about on American news channels. I hear our advocates down there using those same talking points. I think now that we can have a reset with the new Prime Minister, I hope I'm not sharing any secrets. I don't think Donald Trump liked Justin Trudeau that much. I think that was part of our problem. He seems to like the new guy a little bit better, seems to think he can do a deal with him. So I think we played that out. We let that process go. And then we see what happens with the Canada-US Free Trade Agreement. That being said, I would love to see pipelines built to Port-au-Prince Rupert. I'd love to see a pipeline built up to Grace Bay. I'd love to see one built to Hudson Bay. I'd love to see one come up from James Bay. I would love to see one built all the way to Quebec so that we can provide them our product. If Canada says no, we are going to have no choice but to continue our relationship with the United States. And that's part of what I've had to say to my colleagues. Why is it easier for me to get pipelines built north-south than it is to the West Coast or the East Coast? And I think that's part of the reason for the recalibration right now, because it's a pretty darn good point.
So right there, and I want to highlight this comment. She's pretending that the U.S. was never energy independent before producing all of its oil, all the oil it needs itself. Clearly, you haven't been paying attention to the statistics of just how much bitumen is sent from Alberta down to the U.S. every year and how reliant they are on that. Now, it's not to say that the U.S. doesn't have its own oil and gas. Because Donald Trump even says it, we don't need the energy, we don't need it, we're not going to take it. The bottom line is that Alberta is a mass contributor to their annual needs in bitumen. I have to give shout outs where they're due here, folks. Harry Ludwig gifting 5 unacceptable Fringe memberships to the Patriots Club. Thank you so much. Welcome to all 5 of our new members. Arthur OK doing the same. Welcome to our other 5 new members. Kevin becoming a new member as well as Snow. Thank you very much for becoming a new member of the channel. We've got the fellow good with a $5 super chat. Worked as a paramedic firefighter in Alberta for 7 years and moved back to New Brunswick when my wife passed. I am so sorry for your loss. That's devastating. Hoping if Alberta separates, independence, if they gain independence, they'll welcome me back. Listen, for Canadians, for any Canadian that's not afraid of hard work, the door is always open in Alberta. Alberta, there's a reason people come out west and they say, I'm not leaving. There's no way I'll leave in a million years. The only reason newfies come to Alberta and leave is because it's cheaper to live back east. They come here, they work, they take their money, they go home. I really wish that would stop. And I'm saying that as somebody who has Newfoundland family members. Yes, of course, the door's always open in Alberta. Please come back. Thank you for your service as a firefighter and paramedic as well. Austin, $10 super chat. I'm a mechanic and I can tell you this. The so-called net zero mandate for vehicles is a joke. We don't have the infrastructure for it. We would have blackouts all the time. Of course we would. But that's the problem with net zero. It's a fantasy. It's a fantasy. Carnage Carney pointing out 1,000 likes gets you a hoodie for winter. Keep in mind, folks, if we get 1,000 thumbs ups on the stream, I'll be doing a giveaway to one of our Patriots Club members. Again, people saying, why the Patriots Club? Well, how come they're the only ones who get this? They're supporting the channel. This channel, as well as multiple others. And again, I'll get into it after Danielle's Q&A. We're in danger these days. Anytime somebody wants to support the channel, we make it kind of like a lottery. And once you win, your name is put to the back of the rotation. It's a thank you for your support. We'll do a giveaway for one lucky member who wants to support the channel. And thank you to everybody who does. It really helps the channel out. Let's continue with Danielle, because some good questions still get asked here in roughly the 20 minutes that are left on this.
You can't have a policy that you're going to develop everything but. You're going to dig out mining materials, uranium, you're going to develop electricity, you're going to develop every other product but Alberta bitumen. That doesn't make any sense. So I think that there is an opportunity for us to do all three. And when I say all three, number one is let's trade more with each other. And I think that.
Sorry, I have to chime in because I see people making it, the argument, subscriber support too. Everybody supports on this channel. Okay. I'm very happy for all of the support. We do other giveaways as well on this channel, but these are merchandised. We have to pay for them, and we're giving back to those who have supported the channel financially. That being said, I will be doing a giveaway for anybody who thinks we don't. I do have tickets to give away to Christine Anderson's live shows in Alberta. I'll be setting up an email address for that. Stay tuned to our live streams. I'll be giving those away, and we'll be doing a draw. All you'll have to do is send an email saying that you're interested in the show to that email address, and I'll be giving those tickets for Christine Anderson to a couple of lucky viewers. You do not have to be members of the Patriots Club for that giveaway. Let's continue, folks.
That has been a major breakthrough, and we're all signing MOUs with each other, and it's really constructive and positive. Number two is let's build more linear infrastructure across the country so that we can open up new markets and get to those new markets overseas. And I'll have more to tell you on Sunday or Monday when I find out whether or not we have an agreement with our first ministers. And then the third, of course, is to maintain our historic and important relationship with the United States. And I think that with a little bit of time, we'll get right back to normal. And this really is an opportunity, because I think that we have seen that the US president he's already said he would like a Keystone 2.0 or something like it. I know that there are Canadian pipeline companies that are partnering with American companies on some pretty exciting projects. I'm taking kind of an all of the above approach, and we'll know with the passage of time in the days and weeks which ones are going to go ahead.
All right, Premier, thank you very much. Just behind you here. Let's give her a round of applause. That was an excellent answer. Thank you. Premier, I have Karen Brookman here. She's from Northwest Calgary. She has a question for you.
Good evening, Premier. First of all, I just want to say it is incredible to be in a room with 2,000 people, and somehow this city always manages to cook beef perfectly. So I don't know what that's all about, but it's incredible.
Bravo, amazing.
Bravo.
Thanks to the kitchen staff.
Seriously. So I want to start out by saying thank you for the incredible hard work that you're doing, and I don't say that as lip service. I also think it's incredibly inspiring that you take such an incredible stand for Alberta. I think it's fair to say that everybody in this room wants a strong, free, and prosperous Alberta. I don't think we'd be here if we didn't. Having said that, I think there's some of us in this room, including myself, that feels like this is a moment for Alberta in terms of our leadership and influence on a national level. And that while we always have a good fight with Ottawa and always need to have a good fight with Ottawa, I sometimes feel like we're not doing enough to get a message to Canadians. The Canadians don't get it. They see an angry Alberta. And I think that Alberta should be playing a bigger role in influencing this country, in a united country. And I want to ask you, what do you think the UCP can do to bring the message to Canadians, to make a greater influence to unite this country.
Yeah, it's a great comment, and thank you for that. So as you may know, I came from the mainstream media before getting in. Don't hold that against me. I came from the mainstream media before getting into politics. And one of the things that was always mystifying to me, my husband comes from the mainstream media as well. And what we always discovered is that Canada was a lot more interested in certain stories if the Americans were covering those stories. I don't know why that is, but I think it's, look at our comedians, look at our actors, they make it there, and all of a sudden they're superstars here, right? It's maybe the same kind of thing. And so my strategy of going down and talking on American television was mindful, because I knew what would happen by doing that is that CTV and Global, and yes, even CBC would have no choice but to cover the fact that, oh my goodness, the American media seems to be interested in what the Alberta Premier has to say. And so what has happened out of that is other premiers have done the same thing. I don't think, 2.5 years ago, when I became leader, I have a member of my team who is from Ontario, and he said it was sort of amazing. When I came out to Alberta, everyone talks about Ontario and Quebec. But when I lived in Ontario, no one ever talked about Alberta. It really is just I guess we're the quiet, polite neighbor who just quietly goes about, mows the lawn, does a little fix-it, and we don't even want to thank you. We just want to be left alone and to be able to do our thing. And so I think that we've been treated that way for some time. Now people know we're mad, and they're beginning to understand why we're mad. I saw a commentator from the Telegraph, which is a New Brunswick newspaper, and he was defending us. And when he was brought on the air, they said, why are you defending Alberta? I said, well, because we supported Energy East back in the day, because Irving Refinery would have benefited from that. But what we didn't realize is just how deep and strong the relationship is with the United States. And that is what we've been able to punch through on, is we have cross-border trade of $188 billion with the United States. That's just Alberta with the States. No kidding, hey? It's remarkable. The next closest country that we trade with is China, and it's $10 billion. The next one closest after that is Japan, and it's $2.7 billion. Like, it just pales in comparison. When it comes to the trade relationship. So all of that is getting through. There's a new talking point that I have, and I'm almost reluctant to tell you it because you're going to be so mad, but the new talking point I have when I talk about why it is we're so upset as Albertans that they stood in the way of getting Energy East built, and they didn't do anything to defend us when Keystone got canceled, and they put in a tanker ban and ended the Northern Gateway pipeline. Energy East would have been 1.1 million barrels. Keystone would have been about 900,000. Northern Gateway would have been 600,000 and would have been able to grow. If we had embarked on all of those, we would have 2.5 million more barrels of oil a day that is going to multiple different markets. And if you want to pull out your calculator, you'll be just as mad as I am. At $60 a barrel with current WTI prices, that's $55 billion a year of economic benefit we have lost. And if you look at what the government share of that is, whether it's 20% or 30% all in, that is $15 to $20 billion worth of revenues that governments could have had to build schools and hospitals and roads and infrastructure. So
now keep that in mind as Mark Carney wants to shut down any discussions. He says he's going to do energy. He says he's going to do pipelines. When you look at the $300 billion deficit he's projected to run over the next 4 years, you're telling me that that's just what's been lost to the south. You think about if we had an east-west pipeline, a north pipeline, that could fund the country. This is where I'm saying, like, people need to understand why Alberta wants to go. This could fund the country indefinitely. All of its bad decisions, people wouldn't even notice because Alberta would be paving the way. And they've, up until recently, Alberta hasn't had a problem giving its share. That's what many people don't understand in the East, is that people think that Albertans are money grubbers, that they don't care about anything but oil. What they care about is the right to be able to afford their lives, to work, to earn a living, to stay employed, to be treated fairly. Just this year alone in one project, $50 billion lost. Billion with a B. I need to point out here, Carnage Carney gifting 5 unacceptable Fringe memberships to the Patriots Club. Thanks so much. Welcome to Dennis as a new member of the Patriots Club as well. Guys, we hit 1,000 likes. We'll be doing a giveaway here on the stream. So if you want to join the Patriots Club, now's the time. Thank you to everybody who hit the thumbs up. We'll do a giveaway at the end of the stream. Let's continue with Danielle's explanation. I just wanted to cut in there because it's so important to acknowledge that revenue loss. When people say, well, Alberta's just mad Pierre didn't win, or Alberta just doesn't like that the Liberals are in power, it has nothing to do with that. We're talking dollars and cents here. Common sense, if you will. Let's continue.
So it is not just an idle concern that a project gets canceled here or there. It has a real impact on people's lives. It has a real impact on our businesses who have to go elsewhere, a real impact on people who train for jobs in an industry that can't get them anymore, and a real impact on our ability to support our people. So I'm going to keep on making sure that they understand that. And I might disagree with you a little bit. I think our message is getting through. I think that everyone's talking about Alberta now. And I think we're going to be able to continue to use that discussion to have some momentum to really get a better deal with the rest of the country.
All right. I'm interrupting with a very important announcement that the Oilers won 6-3. Woo-hoo! But I also said 5 minutes about 9 minutes ago, and we have 4 people at the mic. So I'm begging you all to keep it super short. Okay.
So I will say, as you know, Mark Carney is an Oilers fan. So if you can have some common ground to start, that might not have much sway in this city, but it has sway in the rest of the province. So we might have some common ground to start from there. And maybe we'll see. Wouldn't it be nice if all of Canada was cheering for the last Canadian team standing in the Stanley Cup Finals? I think it's going to be amazing.
Hello, we have Wade Collins, who's going to try to make it short.
Premier Smith, you know you're my superhero, and because you're a warrior, thank you very much. I used to be a proud Canadian, now I'm a proud Western Canadian. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that maybe feel the same way I do, that the Canada as we used to know it is gone. It's never coming back. Absolutely not. And because I worked at a federal election and I set up voting stations in seniors' homes, I talked to some old folks who were still lucid that were actually freedom fighters in World War II. And I asked them, and I spoke to some sons of these people who are older now, if this is the Canada that they fought for, and they all said the same thing. Absolutely not. And I've supported you, and I'll continue to support you because I believe in my heart that when push comes to shove, you will do whatever it takes to keep Alberta free. I also believe that freedom is more important than money. And personally, I would say to Mr. Carney, hey, Mark, maybe you didn't hear me. We're leaving. My question is, if we, for reasons that I would never understand, do not happen to become independent, what do you think could be put in place to ensure we can never again be ruled by an authoritarian regime like the Liberals or anyone else for that matter?
Thanks for your question. And I understand your frustration. I really do. One of the things that, yeah, thank you. One of the things I've been looking at is, what does Quebec do? How is it that Quebec has managed to create a bit of a firewall? And one of the things that they have done is they have passed a law saying that international agreements don't apply in Quebec unless they're validated by the Quebec legislature, which is a really novel thing to do. The other thing that they do is they have, I think, something like 34 offices that go around the world. They do all of their own negotiations. That was what I was surprised by when I came in, that they believe it's important for their case to be pressed by their people personally. So that's part of the reason why we've been opening up new offices, and we'll continue to do that. We had great success in Japan and Korea on recent trips. We're going to open up an office in Mumbai in India to expand that out. We're going to open up an office in Abu Dhabi, which I think is going to be a great partnership with some of those jurisdictions. But don't lose hope yet, because one thing that I have found is that the Premier's table has become a very strong table. That when I first came in, everyone was talking about, well, how can we get the government to give us more to spend more money on our area of jurisdiction, healthcare? And over time, the conversation changed to, well, how do we get the federal government to spend more on their areas of jurisdiction? How do we get them to meet our 2% NATO commitment so that we can be a true partner with our allies in global defense? How do we get them to build ports and rail and proper expansion to airports and cargo and transmission lines and pipelines? And what I would tell you is every single premier has a list of projects that the federal government has stood in the way of, and that they are now putting on the table saying, prove it. You want to have a new relationship with us? Prove it. We had a very constructive meeting that came out of my most recent meeting with the Western premiers. And it's really interesting. You've got Wab Kinew and David Eby and their NDP premiers in their provinces. You've got Scott, who's a little bit more like me, as you know. We've got a lot of common cause. And then up north, you had a Liberal premier and two that are elected as independents in the territories. And we came up with a unanimous communique that we need to build economic corridors stretching from Hudson Bay all the way to the northwest coast that includes everything, rail and transmission lines and pipelines, oil and gas pipelines. So if we can get that group of people together to press and agree and work in tandem, I think we can change the country. We've got a little bit more work to do as we press further east, but I'm really encouraged. I'm really encouraged. I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you.
So this was one of the questions that I featured in one of my videos, and I'll wrap it up there because even though there's a little bit left, it's just a wrap-up speech. The reason I wanted to show that, the reason we had to go over that, was it really paints the picture in Alberta. It really paints the picture of what Danielle's talking about. Now, again, if you look at all of her answers to those questions, when she's talking about Quebec, it's not that she wants Alberta to be Quebec. She's essentially dangling that carrot on the stick again to say, well, Mark, you give all these benefits to Quebec. Alberta doesn't see any of them. We just want a pipeline. We just want fair treatment. We want a better deal. This is all done very craftily, very, very smart, so that when, not if, but when Mark Carney turns tails, gives his word salad, gives his ums and ahs, his delays, his stalling tactics, Alberta will vote. And Alberta looks to be pushing in the direction, especially as the longer this gets dragged out, to voting in part for independence. And for anybody who's a naysayer, who thinks it's not possible, I'll tell you right now, it is very possible, especially as we get into the fall. And I want to paint a picture for you here. Hang on one second here. Is there somebody's asking why isn't it showing up? There it is. Pretty Weird Duck. Is there a live stream June 7th from the town hall on your channel? What's it about again? So it's June 9th. It's Monday. It's a week today. I'll be live streaming the APP's meeting in Red Deer. Again, for anybody who has questions, who wants some information from them, who can't make those town halls, I will be live streaming that event, and I will be having APP on the channel to talk further about questions that Albertans have. Maybe we get the interview done first, and then maybe I try to organize a live stream where you, the viewer, can come in and ask your questions, and we'll have APP answer those questions. Again, I've reached out to them to say that, look, this channel gets 500,000 Alberta viewers every month. That's 10% of the province, folks. That 10% can easily share that information out. I would like this channel to be a central hub for information to get across to those who are interested in this ballot. So stay tuned for that. Let's get some honorable mentions. Carnage Carney gifting 5 unacceptable Fringe memberships to the Patriots Club. Thank you so much. Dennis becoming a new member of the Patriots Club. Welcome to the Patriots Club. Arthur gifting 5 more unacceptable Fringe memberships to the Patriots Club. You guys are on fire. Thank you so much for your support today. Part of the problem here Part of the problem, for starters, is that Rob has a fever.
Guess what? I got a fever. And the only prescription is more cowbell.
More cowbell! Did we really have no mic for that entire time again? Did we have no mic? Or did that just cut off? No, we had mic. We had mic. We're good. We're good. John says, I knew that was coming. The cowbell never leaves this channel, folks. I want to get to where Canada's in trouble. We all know what Mark Carney's going to do. Have you guys seen what's happening with the CBC? With this YouTube channel? Real Talk Politics, I believe it's called. Let me pull up this article from Real Talk Politics. I'm sorry, I didn't have this prepared because I wasn't really going to get into it on this stream. Oh, they've changed their title again. They've changed their title again. A lot of people have asked, how come you're doing giveaways for Patriots Club? How come it's not common giveaways? Again, I'll be doing a giveaway for Christine Anderson to anybody who watches the channel. Anybody who watches this channel and supports the channel financially, now's the time. We're in dire straits, actually. I don't know if you guys have noticed on this channel, but engagement is way down. YouTube is no longer promoting. I've taken a look at the analytics. The only viewers that are coming here are returning viewers. There are no new viewers. Our videos are not being pushed out. They're not being promoted. This is why people get fed up with me saying it. You always got to share it out, give a thumbs up, give a comment. Costs you nothing. That support is also very much welcomed on this channel. But the CBC is starting to shut down actively YouTube channels, it would seem. Canadian Content Farm topped the politics charts on YouTube before it was taken down. Keep in mind, this was a different title. The CBC was essentially touting how they got their competition removed off of YouTube. I'm curious as to how that was done. Again, before we get into it, I'm going to make it clear that this is alleged, because I know YouTube's going to say it's misinformation. It's all these other things that I may fall under the scope of termination if I don't say the right things here. It's alleged that CBC had this channel, or at least influenced this channel being removed. It says here that the account was the most viewed Canada-based news and politics channel during the federal election. A YouTube account. Now, this is also Real Talk Politics. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that channel, if you guys ever watched that channel. A YouTube account that was the most popular Canada-based news and politics channel during much of the federal election this year has been taken down by YouTube following inquiries from CBC News' visual investigations team and Radio Canada's decryptors. Real Talk Politics regularly published confrontational partisan video clips about politics that have been watched by millions of people. Now listen to the wording of this article. Please listen to the wording of this article, because if you watch political channels on this platform, it really paints a picture where this is going and what the future of YouTube is going to look like. It's just one example. The channel ranked up almost 70 million views, I should mention, from April 3rd to April 30th. According to new data from viewstats.com, it's the third most viewed Canada-based news and politics channel over the last 3 months, short of this channel. I'm just kidding. This channel doesn't even go close to that. I don't even think it does 1% of that. Let's go. It's just one of the examples is to refer to as content or engagement farming phenomenon, in which individuals or organizations tailor their content to tap into the algorithm of the platform, being YouTube, and boost their popularity. Isn't that what every news outlet does? Isn't that what their job is to do, is to find trending topics to talk about? Isn't that why news organizations have editors and chief and editors that decide what content gets talked about and what stories they don't talk about? But they're saying that because it's right wing and because it's people that are talking outside of the mainstream media who get millions and millions in government handouts, by the way, these people have no budgets. They have no government funding, yet they're accumulating more views. Well, that's just content and engagement farming. If somebody wants to tell me that that's not what the CBC does on their network, please explain to me how they work. It's a particular form of content farm because a content farm can take many different forms, said Paris Marks, Canadian-based technology expert, to host the podcast Tech Won't Save Us. These channels, keep in mind channels, seem to be using political content in particular and what they feel is going to drive engagement, he said. Marx noted the political content farms could be both left or right-leaning. Of course they have to say that. They got to cover their butts. Some of them will be just searching for the way they're going to make the most money. And so they begin to shape their content to align with what is going to work on the platform. First off, I can speak on behalf of this channel that any content that I have made for this channel is to simply discuss the things that mainstream media refuses to or wants to ignore. This is a community. It's not money driven. It's not money based. It is a community of like-minded individuals discussing politics. It is not content farming. CBC News' visual investigations unit looked into the Real Talk Politics account and found its videos were highly formulaic, and that the focus on the channel, along with a sister account on TikTok, had changed over the past few years. Well, heaven forbid they couldn't use their freedom of expression. They moved from finance content to videos covering Canadian and American politics, and now almost exclusively are dedicated to US politics. Short-form videos on YouTube channel often featured a conservative figure, keep in mind they say that, as they, quote, humiliate, destroy, or humble a liberal one. How many channels do you watch on this platform that have those in their titles? Those quoted, humbling, destroying, and humiliating a liberal opponent. They're painting a picture here when you look at Mark Carney's online harms bill that's on its way. Approximately 1 minute long video features what seems to be an AI voiceover and includes some edits and images to illustrate what is being discussed. One of the recent videos was entitled Canada's Corrupt Woke Government. Well, aren't they? I would say that's a pretty damn good explanation of them. Angus Bridgman, Director of Media Ecosystem Observatory at McGill University and the University of Toronto, told Radio Canada that content similar to Real Talk Politics is increasingly dominant on social media. It's like an interesting AI-generated entrepreneurial brain rot news-type combination. It's not news. It's not information-rich new facts. It's exactly the type of stuff that people were concerned about social media users overly consuming, he said. This is why Mark Carney wants to censor the internet. Because nobody's watching the CBC. Nobody's watching CTV. I'll take it a step further when this article's done, when we talk about what just happened in Paris and why nobody's watching them. YouTube confirmed the channel was taken down due to violations of YouTube's policies on spam, deceptive practices, and scams. Keep in mind, if you followed YouTube and politics before and looked at the Celtic Canuck had her channels deleted for the same things. No explanation given. Nothing that says why it was done. And this was all launched by CBC's investigative team to make sure that they don't have competition. This is why provinces like Alberta, this is why it's not just oil and gas. It's not just people saying, I don't like that Pierre didn't get in. Our futures are at risk here. Censorship is at an all-time high. What's funny about this channel being pulled last week is that as soon as that happened, almost instantly on this platform, this channel and just about every other large YouTube channel, I'm not going to say their names because I don't want to incite that they're having a problem unless they're aware of their problem. All of our views have been basically cut in half. YouTube is no longer recommending our videos. They're not pushing them out. They're not notifying people when videos are dropping. In fact, people on this channel have told me they have to resubscribe multiple times a week. By the way, YouTube still has not allowed me to apply for my silver play button. They've told me my channel is under review, and that's happened for over a month now. Something that they said normally takes 10 days. This is suppression. If I go really quick to what happened in France, in Paris. This is why people don't watch the mainstream media. And I'm going to pull up one of my bookmarks really quick. Again, I apologize, guys. I didn't have this. I didn't know I was going to get into this in today's live stream. But this can't wait for Friday. Take a look at this. If you guys saw what was going on in France, CTV is calling what happened in France last night a celebration. You can't hate our media enough, says Ryan Gerritsen. By the way, Ryan Gerritsen, amazing account. I'll take out, just in case there's some language in here. Look at what's going on. Look at what's going on in France, in Paris. This is absurd. It's chaos. In fact, here it is here. Let's take a look at what Jim Ferguson had to say. Paris burns and Macron's globalist experiment is to blame. Footage shows widespread fires, riots, destruction tearing through the streets of Paris. Reports indicate illegal migrants at the heart of the violence again. This is on its way to Canada, by the way. It says this isn't a protest, this is a pattern. What this means. Wherever globalist rules, chaos follows. Macron opened the gates and now France is being devoured from within. Europe is not integrating, it's imploding. Paris used to be a city of light. Now it's the front line to civilizational collapse. This isn't isolated. It's happening in every nation infected by this rot. Now keep in mind, as I head over to CTV, PSG fans raise the roof as triumphant players hold aloft Champions League trophy. Nice picture of Paris right there, isn't it? They don't talk about anything that happened there. They're not talking about anything that was going on. The streets on fire with people raising a stink. And we're told that we're engagement farming by bringing you guys actual video of what's going on over there. Our views have been chopped in half. Subscribers halted. This is why we do draws for the Patriots Club. This is why I give back to those who have joined the Patriots Club. They're financially supporting this channel. And I would urge anybody who enjoys the content on this channel that can afford the $5 a month to do so. Not only do you get your name in the draw for a free item of choice from our merch store, but you're supporting ongoing independent journalism on this channel, independent content, for as long as that continues or is allowed to continue. And many people misunderstood when I was talking about Mark Carney's upcoming online harms bill, which Stephen Guilbeault is in charge of, I might add. If that bill comes true, and it's going the way that people are saying it's going to go, many people said, well, just go to Rumble. Just go to all these other platforms that aren't YouTube. It isn't that simple. If you look at what goes on in other countries over the pond, close to where Paris is, you can be jailed for what's considered hate speech. You can be arrested for talking bad about your government. In fact, Tommy Robinson is one of the many people that have been discussed on that front. What do you think is going to happen to Canadian YouTubers? Or people on Rumble? People on other platforms that want to talk about politics? It's not as simple as a VPN or going to another site or having your own website, which would be suppressed, by the way. The government can ultimately arrest you for criticizing them for talking hate speech. Many people have said, well, Fringe, why is it just oil and gas? Is that the reason why you stand for Alberta independence? Absolutely not. It's because of things like this. Because the world is being shut down by authoritarianisms. We're being told what we can and can't consume. We're being told what we have to do with our bodies. We're being told what we can and can't say. And if you do speak up, if you dare to speak up, being part of a fringe minority, well, you're punished. You're not allowed to make a living. You're not allowed to try to survive, essentially. Now, I am grateful for everybody who comes to these channels. Again, I don't always, it's not about financial support. I've said a million times over, share these videos out on social media. Hit a like button, hit a comment. It helps us more than you know. Subscribe to the channel. 48% of our viewers are not yet subscribed. Subscribe to the channel. It helps. those actions aren't just for the benefit of this channel. And this isn't me being salty. I said it throughout the entire election. I'll continue to say it. You should follow and subscribe to every Canadian political content creator on this platform that you watch regularly. Even those that you stumble upon, if you think you may like their content, give them a sub, like their comments, or like their videos, give them a comment, share it out on social media. Tell people this person's worth watching. Because if something like that is free of charge to do, if we don't start making sure that these stories, that these videos, that these discussion points get out, the government is going to silence us. Censorship is hitting a ridiculous level. It's already here. And as this channel moves forward, talking about Alberta independence, well, you be the judge of where that's going to go. Snow with a $5 super chat. I think you need a permit to buy steak knives in the UK. I'm not sure on that. Again, I don't follow a lot of their laws. Juliet, thank you for becoming a new member of the Patriots Club. Welcome to the Patriots Club. What this country is turning into is a mess. Is Danielle Smith going to openly promote Alberta independence? No. No, she's not. I would ask anybody watching this live stream to give her time, patience, and understanding that what's being played here is a larger game. What we're seeing here developing is a larger part of the puzzle. This is to blame Mark Carney for the destruction of Canada. This is so that there is somebody to point the finger at when everything falls apart. Danielle is not a traitor to Alberta. She is not a liar. She is not stealing from Albertans. She is not dangling things on a fishhook. I can't speak on her behalf down to the grain, but what I can say is the impression that I've gotten from the time I've spent around her, the time I've spoken with her, is that she cares about Alberta's future. She cares about Albertans. And she's put them first a significantly amount more than any other politician, aside from who I believe was King Ralph. Danielle's done a hell of a job. What she's driving is the fire for Alberta independence to continue to grow, for Albertans to become informed, to decide if independence is the best move for them. Now, I've provided a lot of arguments that state this is where I stand on independence and why. Is it really such a bad thing when you look at what the feds take, when you look at the deals that Alberta has been given, when you look at Saskatchewan, when you look at what Saskatchewan's been given? Again, I've got a video coming up this afternoon talking about Saskatchewan, so stay tuned for that. It should be coming shortly. But is it really such a bad deal to start saying that we're not going to work with this federal government anymore? We don't want to be a part of this abusive relationship. We don't want treatment like this anymore. We just want to, did you ever think we'd be at a position in our lives where we have to argue and say we just want the right to work and pay our bills and maybe have a little left over to enjoy our lives? I never thought it would be. I was always told that if you're willing to work hard, you reap the rewards. The problem is we're not allowed to work. Barb, thank you for becoming a new member. Welcome to the Patriots Club. On that note, folks, let's wrap it up. Let's get to our giveaway. I'm going to fire up the old randomizer. We'll do a Patriots Club giveaway. Spin the wheel. Here we go. John B. John B. Is John B. still in the chat? Is John B. still here? I'll give John B. a minute to show up in the chat if he's not here. Somebody says he was commenting. Is John B. here? There's John B. Here he is. John B. Congratulations. You just won our draw. You won our Patriots Club draw for a giveaway. Hang on. Let me get the email address in here. John B. Head over to Unacceptable Fringe YT, as in Unacceptable Fringe YouTube, unacceptablefringeyt@gmail.com. Congratulations, you're our winner of our draw today. Go to our shop, pick out one item of your choice, whether it be a mug, a hat, a sweater, hoodie, t-shirt, woman's t-shirt, I don't care, whatever you want. Pick it out. If it's a clothing item, make sure to take a screenshot, get a picture of the design, the color, and the size that you would like, and send me that screenshot in the email alongside your shipping information. I will have that sent out today or tomorrow. Whenever you send that email, you must contact me within 24 hours. That is the rule. We've had people contacting me a week later, sometimes 10 days, saying, I won, so long ago, I want that item now. We redraw. We give a suitable time frame, I think 24 hours. That's why we always check that somebody's in the chat when we draw names. So congratulations to John B. Unacceptablefringeyt@gmail.com. Send me an email. Let me know what it is you'd like. And again, welcome to all of our new Patriots Club members. I want to take my moment to thank Brian McCaddy, Snow 181, Arthur OK, Kevin Magsdad, Harry Ludwig, The Fellow Good, Austin, Carnage Carney, Dennis Jasinski, Suna Soul Silver, Juliet Mastronardi, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, and Barb Suave for all either joining the Patriots Club, giving away memberships today, sending your super chats. I really appreciate all the help, folks, especially with the censorship on YouTube. Make sure when the videos drop on the channel, you guys are giving those thumbs up, comments. Again, it takes 2 seconds. It helps the channel immensely. It doesn't have to be a financial contribution. That alone helps us by hitting the subscribe button, doing the YouTube jazz. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks for joining me on this surprise live stream. Keep your stick on the ice, folks. Changes are coming, and I look forward to being here to giving those changes to you, or at least giving you the information on them. With that said, I hope you guys have a great day. Keep your stick on the ice. Look after each other. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care, ladies and gentlemen.